Good morning, you're listening to Alex on radio, and we have our mystery guest in the studio. Who is it? It is retired probation officer Spencer Sloan. Now, for all you criminals out there, don't be afraid. Remember, he's retired, and he's here to pass along some wisdom that he's developed over the last... How many years have you been working in probation, Spencer?
Almost 30 years.
30 years. That's a lifetime for some people. Actually, more than some people will ever live.
Well, it seemed like 3 or 4 lifetimes to me.
So, Spencer, tell us a little bit about tips for hygiene in the workplace. What were some things that you experienced?
Well, let's just start with where you come in the office. The entrance to the office, the doorknob. I would not touch that doorknob with my own precious skin, with the precious Spencer skin. I would save all my scrap paper, and I would only use scrap paper to turn that doorknob. I used to call the scrap paper doorknob condoms. And my motto was, always practice safe doorknobs.
What about bathrooms? Any tips there?
Well, we used to collect urine specimens. That was part of the fun of being a probation officer. And I was very, very methodical about the way I collected urine specimens.
Could you walk us through a urine specimen? I mean, not literally through the urine, but I mean, walk us through the sample process.
Well, let me just sum up by saying that I was very, very careful. I took my time. I did it exactly the same way every time, and I never touched anything. The client would bottle the urine. They would label the urine. All I had to do, I would hold on a bag, the mouth of the bag open, and I would tell them to drop the bottle in the bag. It was sort of like a little game. Drop the bottle in the bag. And they would inevitably try and grab the bag or steady the bag or something, and I would pull it away and I'd say, no, do not touch the bag.
Sounds like
Just
you really
drop
developed
the bottle in the bag.
a rapport with them. In fact, I have a list here of some terms or labels that your peers have written about. They called you Mr. Clean, Mr. Fanatical. Okay, I'm not going to repeat that one. Mr. Do-Gooder. Maybe I should stop. What did you think about the kitchen? I understand you felt it wasn't a place for socializing, it was a place for sanitizing. And now what was going on in the kitchen, and why were you afraid of the coffee club? Can you tell us about that?
Well, I think the reason they called me Mr. Clean is simply because, not because I'm such a fanatic, it's just that they were such slobs. That I think any normal person appeared to them to be fanatical. I mean, these people that I work with, they would, you would regularly see them in the conference room, where we often, 8 people ate lunch, where we would have our parties, and they'd be in there with these cups of urine on the table, these Regent sticks on there, and they'd be stirring it around, and they'd be splashing urine right on the table where we ate. Now, they probably thought it was just wonderful hygiene, that they would actually take a paper towel and wipe up some of the urine after they were done on the table. They never bothered to disinfect anything. And I joined the coffee club for a little while there. They did make good coffee, but the problem was that they used the same sponge for, I would say, at least a year. And the thing was, it was like black and brown and dark. It was really probably the most repulsive-looking object that I've ever seen. And it occurred to me that the people that cleaned the office, they had this enormous mop bucket. And in the ladies' room and the men's room and in the little collection room where we collected the urine specimens, all the sinks were these little itty-bitty sinks. I think that the building must have been used for something for children at one point. Maybe it was a daycare center.
Yeah, it sounds like a happy place.
Well, they had these little tiny sinks, and I put 2 and 2 together, and it occurred to me that the cleaning people probably didn't fill or empty that huge mop bucket in those little itty-bitty sinks. But the sink in the kitchen, where the sponge was kept, the special sponge...
You mean the sponge flower, as my Nana would have called it.
Yes. That sink was this huge laundry tub. So I figured that the cleaning people probably filled and emptied this mop bucket that they had used to mop up the bathroom floors, probably in that kitchen sink. And that sponge was always down in the bottom of the sink with a bunch of silverware and the coffee pot. So when that realization came to me, the coffee club kind of lost its charm. But sometimes you just have to do things for people's own good. It's like what they don't know won't hurt them. When nobody was around one evening, I threw the sponge in the garbage.
Ooh.
And I didn't use my fingers to pick it up.
So how old do you think that sponge was? Just rough estimate.
Well, it had to be there at least a year that I can remember. It was literally rotting. It was decomposing. I was amazed that it hadn't completely decomposed.
Fascinating. So, Spencer, why don't you tell us, actually, let's move on to the words of the day, because I think that sponge story might have our listeners a little bit, sick after eating breakfast. Sorry about that, everybody. If you tune in tomorrow, I promise you we'll go easy. But, we're going to get to the words of the day now. I'm going to say some words, and, I want you to tell me the first word or term or thing that pops into your mind. Okay?
Okay.
Clock.
Work.
Sponge.
Bacteria.
Bacteria.
Sponge.
Doorknob.
Condom.
Condom.
Doorknob.
Okay. Computer.
Savvy.
Fluorescent.
Lamp.
Very good. Spencer, you still have it after all these years. Thank you so much for joining us, and we really appreciate that you're revisiting what I would think is a painful past, 30 years as a probation officer. So just remember, guys, don't hold it against the messenger. He's only here to help. I hope you learned some great tips from the man who basically invented clean, according to your coworkers. Thanks again, Spence, and join us tomorrow, 9 a.m. for the other mystery guest.